when did you hear about GNH?
Well, gender-neutral housing has been actually a topic in student affairs for a long time. I've known about it for maybe 15 years, 10 years. And so we've been looking at the concept for a long time in housing.
What do you know about it?
Well, gender-neutral, it has a couple of the main origin for gender-neutral housing was to be supportive of the LGBT community. That not everybody identifies in what we consider a binary gender system, like I'm male, I'm female. Some people find themselves someplace in the middle, for example. And so depending on how they view themselves and where they're at, they may or may not feel comfortable rooming with somebody of the same gender, or all female or male. The other is that we have some students who are transgendering. They're actually in the process of changing their sex or their gender. And that's a very private and personal thing. And students may feel more comfortable with somebody who's a friend, who knows what they're going through, who may not be male or female, but whatever, a friend, you know. So that is really how gender-neutral housing came to be a long time ago, and that was it was the thought of having an inclusive environment means we would need to have living arrangements for students who would fall into some of those categories. Now, what we were always able to do is give somebody maybe a single room or a medical room, but they sometimes feel isolated and they don't have the same experience that a traditionally gendered student might. So that's kind of how it began. And you're probably going to ask why we brought it here when we started talking about that. Okay, so I'll go there next. This past summer I went to a national conference for housing officers, and there were a couple of sessions there on gender-neutral housing. I was very interested in finding out what was going on and what schools were doing it and how it was going. And following those sessions, I spoke with our executive director here and said, you know, this might be maybe we should look at this. Maybe the time might be now, because this campus does a lot to support LGBT students, and we also are a strong residence hall program. We have a very good program here, and we have a strong commitment to diversity as an institution, and so maybe we should look at this. And so our executive director, Christine Sheets, thought that was a great idea, and she ran it by our vice president for student affairs, Dr. Smith, and he said, yeah, let's take a look at it. So we started a task force this summer that started looking at what other schools were doing and what we might be doing. And then school started, and we learned that Student Senate was looking at the same thing. A representative named Amelia Shaw, she had come back wanting to work on this as well. So, and they were doing a survey of students on campus to find out their opinions. So we merged our efforts and put forth a recommendation right before winter break to Dr. Smith saying, we think we'd like to try this, and maybe a pilot project, you know, let's see what we can do. The final outcome of that was that we're not putting up the banner that this is an LGBT living option. It's just an option for someone who would like to live with somebody of an opposite gender, or with just no regard for gender, just who would you like to live with. And so that's how we got to where we are today of having a pilot project next year. The decision, the preference of the administration was that we not do it right away with freshman students, not for first year. Let's do it for second year students who know campus a little bit, and you know, and we had an application process. If you're interested in looking at the application, it's still online. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I have seen it before.
Yeah, and I think when you read it, you get a sense that this may not just be for a male and a female heterosexual couple who want to live together. This is about a broader sense of an inclusive community. And I think some students who probably were thinking, gee, I'd like to live with my boyfriend or girlfriend, they looked at the application and thought, you know, this may end up being a community that I'm not as comfortable with, you know. So I think some students self-selected out. But anyway, that's where we're at.
Do you think parents should have a say in it? Because I know that's one of the issues that was brought up.
No, I think have a say in whether or not their student lives here. No, because we don't do that anywhere else. You know, we don't do it with substance free, we don't do it with quiet study, we don't do it with honors. And so I think it's important when you're doing programs like this to have some consistency in philosophy and approach. I think there were a lot of misperceptions at first, and to be honest, we didn't get as many concerning calls as I think I first expected we would. We sure had some, and basically there were two myths. One was that we were really promoting premarital sex, and we wanted heterosexual couples to live together. And the second was that it was everywhere on campus. And in fact, it was just one floor in one residence hall. And maximum number of people that would live in that community is 27 out of almost 8,000 beds, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that it wasn't really about heterosexual couples. It could be, but it was broader than that. And so most of the people that I had a chance, parents I had a chance to talk to, understood once that was explained. There were some who do not support LGBT issues. They don't, and it's basically was a faith-based issue for them, that they just think it's, one woman said it's just reflective of the moral decay of our country. Those were her words. And so we have a philosophical difference, you know, that our institution supports the LGBT community, and this is another example of a sign of support. And, you know, there was a difference of opinion there, but.
Perfect. You covered everything.
Was that
You
all
really
you
got
needed
that.
to know?
That was great.